Well, good evening and welcome to the last tackle here on the Sportsman Rugby League. Joining me this week, got a front row union of Adrian, Morley and Amor. We will, of course, be dissecting all of the action from the weekend just gone and looking ahead to the Betfred Challenge Cup. But we're going to start with the most important story of them all. It unfolded in Leeds on Sunday. It was all about Kevin Sinfield and Rob Burrow. Yeah, unbelievable scenes at the Rob Burrow Marathon, obviously all in aid of Rob's cause and trying to raise money and awareness for the MND Association. We've watched this journey unfold for the last 2 or 3 years, gents. How incredible is it, Carl, I'll start with you, Rob Burrow and Kevin Sinfield, the story that just keeps on developing and just keeps blowing everyone away.
Yeah, it's huge, isn't it? And all for that cause that you mentioned there into, not only finding a cure for this awful disease, but helping many of those who are suffering from it right now. And I just think it was fantastic. Look, I got to spend a very short time at Leeds Rhinos at the beginning of my career. Kevin Sinfield, Rob Burrow, Matt Diskin, all those guys who were there taking part in the Rob Burrow Marathon as well. So that sort of brotherhood that club has, even still from that golden generation of Leeds Rhinos players, is all still evident there. And Moz, that's what it's all about, isn't it? When you finish the game, you don't think too much about the trophies. It's about those bonds and those experiences together, and just great pictures there from one mate helping another.
Yeah, and also running the marathon that day, our very own Adrian Morley, your second marathon in a month as well. There was a lot of ex-Leeds Rhinos players and associates involved, obviously yourself included, an ex-teammate of those two. There must have been a real sense of camaraderie and pride and a real togetherness around that whole event.
Oh, very much so. We all met up before the run and had a photo, but it was fantastic. And Carl said before, the sense of brotherhood and camaraderie is fantastic, and Leeds do that very well. Once you've been a Rhino, you're a Rhino for life. And massive effort from Luke Burgess. He actually flew in from Australia to take part in the marathon, but Keith Senior can hardly walk on his bad knee. He hobbled round, but he just wanted to do it. And them scenes there, very emotional there. Kevin carrying Rob over the line, and Kev spoke to everyone before the marathon and spoke about he wants this marathon to be about friendship, and nothing epitomises friendship, in my opinion, than what Kev's done for Rob over the last 18 months or so. And to carry him over the line, it was absolutely incredible. And he just said, look, if you see someone doing it tough during the marathon, go over, put your arm around him, say I'm there for you. And it was just a great atmosphere, and the whole day it was a carnival atmosphere, and for the right reasons, it was absolutely fantastic.
And it's horrible to see Rob in that condition and stricken like that, but the bravery displayed by him, but the determination displayed by Kev feels kind of symptomatic, one, of rugby league as a sport, but also of what made that Leeds Rhinos group as successful as it was. Yep,
without a doubt. The things Kev's done for Rob and the MND in general has been nothing short of magnificent. We harp on about when people get gongs and all this. If Kev Sinfield is not worthy of a knighthood, I don't know who is. I think he's raised about £7 or £8 million on his own. He spoke to the group again, but he said everyone is, because not everyone ran it for MND. People had their own causes and people who they're running for, but a lot of people did run for MND. But even on that day, accumulatively, there was £3 million raised at least on that day just running the marathon. So all the money and awareness for MND has been fantastic. But what Kev Sinfield's done in particular is just incredible.
And you're a seasoned marathon runner now. Have you booked in for your next one?
I've hung the marathon shoes up now. It was a lot tougher the Leeds one, actually. All marathons are hard, but the London one was tough. But the Leeds one had hills in it, and the sun was out, so it made it particularly tough. But it was a lot more, even though it was hard, it was enjoyable for them reasons I've mentioned before. And then I got in. Barry McDermott was there, and Jamie Peacock had finished, and Matt Diskin, Keith Senior, these type of lads, and we all had a few beers just to rehydrate Lewis. we weren't drinking to get drunk, but we had a few beers, and we had a good laugh on the Sunday night. It was great. As tough as it was worth every step, every painful step run. It was worth it.
Yeah, some brilliant pictures of some Leeds Rhinos legends at that marathon. I'm sure they've had a smile on their face as well after what happened on Friday night. We'll touch on that in a minute. But Kyle, let's talk about Betfred Super League. The round just gone. Started on Thursday night. Wakefield Trinity 6, Hull FC 26. It felt going into this, if Wakefield were going to get a win on the board, that was an opportunity to do it. How do they turn this around at this stage?
Look, I'm still confident that there is a win at Wakefield for Wakefield. I honestly think that, and I've said it a couple of times, I think it's Castleford who might be in trouble at the end of this season. I do believe that there's a win there for Wakefield, and when those two clubs meet again later on down the line, that'll be a huge game. I just think, Hull FC going into this one, of course, they'd won a couple of games in a row. It was important for them to start their season going. Scott Taylor came out this week and talked about, the people all pulling together under Tony Smith. They now all feel that they're on sort of one common goal, which is what you need in a team sport. You can't have people, sort of toing and froing against the coach's ideas, but they seem to sort of have got it going now at the minute. I didn't think it was a great game in particular. I thought the quality was pretty poor, but having said that, Wakefield, they do need to start picking up wins, and of course James Ford as well leaving yesterday. It doesn't look great, but I still do believe that they're a chance of staying up.
How much does a
Sorry, there wasn't much in it for 40 minutes. There was in there, and if I think they need a few strike players. The defence is okay. It's not fantastic, but it's okay. But they just need someone who can get over the line and get a few points on the board. But I think they competed okay. But I agree with Carl. I think wins not too far away.
But the defence has improved, hasn't it, Moz? You remember at the start of the year they were conceding 40 points, for the first 5-6 games in a row. There's still 26, is still far too many. But they pushed Warrington all the way. If it hadn't been for Proctor being sent off, that could have been something else. So that's what makes me believe that this Wakefield side do have a couple of wins in the remaining games.
And I was just going to say, Moz mentioned that they competed for 40 minutes. I thought right up until I think Carlos Tumavave scored that try, they were right in the game, Carl. It almost looks as if that point a little bit of self-doubt kicked in, a little bit of lack of confidence kicked in, and that's going to happen, isn't it, when you're doing it tough at the bottom?
Exactly, and that's understandable. When winning becomes a habit, and so does losing. And if you can find ways to lose, it only takes something like that late try that it absolutely kills sides. So look, I think there's. I'm not quite sure. I can't quite put my finger on which team they'll take. I do think they'll get a scalp. I think it'll be a top 6 that they turn over at Wakefield. Any season, Moz, that always happens, doesn't it? Wakefield is an incredibly tricky place to go and get a win. And, as long as they can keep that sort of squad belief together, there's a chance there for them.
Just quickly on Hull FC, Moz, when they were on the wrong side of results a few weeks back, I know you were confident that Tony Smith would get a tune out of them and turn things around. Looks like he has done that. Yeah,
it looks that way. Coming into the game, there was 2 wins out of 2, and they made it 3 against Wakefield. But I was always confident Tony would turn the club around, which he has done at virtually every club he's been to. But it's probably took him longer than I thought it would, and probably longer than he thought it would take him as well. But they are sitting pretty at the moment. They look like they are confident, and as I say, they're 3 wins out of 3. So I think he has worked his magic again, and I think they'll kick on now, and their season will start, and I think they'll be looking at the potentially top 6. That would be their goal.
Friday night, Wigan versus Leeds, a remarkable game of rugby league, really, Carl. I'll admit, at half-time, I'm sure I wasn't alone in this, I thought Leeds were dead and buried down to 12. I thought they were going to fall away and that Wigan would come out quite easily on top.
Yeah.
What happened was the complete opposite.
Yeah, I think only the diehard Leeds fan would have remained true with their team and said they can turn it around, because the way they were playing, they were just throwing the ball wildly, out of backfield. Some of the passes from Austin weren't exactly great, and they were turning possession over. And I just thought they almost flipped the mindset. They just started to run hard, tackle hard, offloading as well off the back of that. And Wigan couldn't cope. And I think, you going back to last week when it was Hull FC Wigan, there was an alarm bells there in that first half. They were so poor defensively. They weren't really getting the bodies in front. They weren't completing tackles. They managed to they managed to sort of improve in the second half. But I thought off the back of that result, you would get a full, Wigan-like 80-minute ruthless performance, and it looked that way for 40 minutes. But second half, my word, some of them tries, that last one in particular, I think it's Cam Smith that just dances past Sam Powell. A player of his quality would have, been disappointed with that, but it wasn't just that incident. There was a few of them along the way that, Matty Peet must have, he must be banging some heads together this week for sure.
From a Leeds perspective, Moz, we're just spoken about Wakefield and confidence and mentality there, but having a win in that kind of scenario with your back up against the wall like that for Leeds could be a real boost for them in terms of just steadying the ship, because they've been very hit and miss. They've not been awful, they've not been great. This could be the thing that just kicks them on to the next part of the year. Yeah,
Wigan are one of the better sides in Super League, and to get the win in that manner would be a massive confidence boost. And they have been inconsistent, you're right, but Carl said only a diehard Leeds fan would have stayed through the 80 minutes. But I was talking to a few on Sunday. They were saying I turned it off at half time. I just thought they were playing that poor. Just had a player sent off. It's going to be a cricket score here, but it was a great score, but the other way around. So you're right, it could kick on, their season now. But what a great way to win. In the second half, it looked as though Wigan were down to 12 men. They just had loads more intent, didn't they? They were running harder, tackling harder, and it was a famous victory. And let's see how they go now.
I just think for Owen Smith, if you'd have said to him and offered him at the start of the year, you're going to go to St Helens and win, and you're going to go to Wigan and win, he'd have snapped his hand off. But it's those other little, those sort of mid-table performances that they're just getting pipped on. Those mid-table clubs, they need to sort that out if they want to make a charge for the top four.
Well, also Friday night, Huddersfield 4, Lee Leopards 30. Lee continuing on that great form. Huddersfield, Kyle, they're just, for all the talent, and we know that there is talent there, it's a great squad, and we know that Ian Watson is a good coach.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it just isn't working. I
think Huddersfield have got away with it this year. We're almost halfway through the season, and they are, they have been a big, they've not been great, have they? I couldn't quite think of the word there, but they've been very disappointing. Given that the talent that they've got in their roster, you'd have thought that they would put some much bigger and better performances. Got to that Challenge Cup final, and with a better side in it, should have really won that day, but they didn't. They're chasing a trophy. You think they're going to learn lessons and come back stronger, recruited so well. Maybe they've got a few too many, Chiefs and not enough Indians. There's a lot of key personnel in a lot of positions trying to fight for either the number one spot or the half-backs. How do you keep them all in? How do you fit them all in, and keep them happy? Maybe is that, I'm not too sure. I've not heard anything, around the Huddersfield camp that suggests that, but that for their quality and given what they've spent, they need to be performing much better.
And then Castleford 22, Catalans 46. Castleford continuing to do it tough. Catalans getting those results, keeping themselves at the top end of the table. And then Moz, Warrington 21, Hull KR 14. And the Warrington, you say blip, losing to the teams that they lose to. It feels harsh to call it a blip, but they lost a couple of games after starting so strong. Feels like they've kind of got themselves moving again, and they look very assured, don't they?
I think so. The noise has come out of the Warrington camp. They weren't that bothered about the Wigan loss because it was a real close game. Could have gone either way. They was disappointed about the Saints result. That was un-Warrington-like. 2023, not last year, but by the way. But you are right, they do seem to have got back on track now, although they did struggle a little bit against Wakefield, although they got the win. But OKR, they're one of the stronger teams, the form team of Super League, so it weren't I don't think it was an easy feat getting the 2 points there, so I think you're right, they're back on track now, and they'll be open to make a push now and finish the season strong.
And just moving on to Saturday quickly, We've got so much to talk about this week. St Helens 26, Salford Devils 12, Carl. Obviously, you were part of the Channel 4 presentation for that, and we speak about, that Wigan Leeds game being a game of two halves. Copy and paste that straight onto that game, because at half-time, Salford looked very much in control of that game, 6 points up, looked like they were dictating how it was going, and then what we got in the second 40 was just the complete opposite.
Yeah, it was, and it was the way Salford went about it and how they started the game. They opened up Saints through the middle of the field and they scored tries from deep, and the support play of Ryan Briley, Brodie Croft, got some exceptional players, and the brand that they play is, I love watching Salford at the moment. I love the way they play the game. But for Saints, there was almost a bit of you could feel it in the ground. There was a bit of an atmosphere brewing ahead there. And at 12-6, that try that got them back in just before half-time with James Bell almost give them, I don't think the Saints side would have given up hope by half-time, certainly not. But it allowed them just to slightly change that, how they were going to go about it in the second half. They came out with an intensity, there's no doubt about that. But for me, I asked Paul Rowley after the game, did St Helens win it or did Salford lose it? And I truly believe that, I think, Salford lost that. And that 10-minute period there, they were coming up with some sloppy errors and some crazy play that just allowed Saints just to take advantage of it. And the quality that they've got at St Helens, once they get a foothold in that, you ain't getting it back, or it's very difficult to get it back. And I just think if Salford had have just calmed down and got through that 10-15 minute period after the second half, well, we'd be having a different conversation, I believe.
And is this just the kind of part of the process for Salford? Because they've made massive strides in the last 18 months under Paul Rowley, 80 minutes away. Not even that. They were right in that semi-final, weren't they, away from the grand final last year. It's just that kind of almost experience and ability to manage those games and those situations. Is that the next step in improving and then moving from a playoff team into a genuine contender?
Yeah, I think so. We speak about how talented the Salford halfbacks, hooker and fullback are, and when they get it right on the day, they're the best attacking team in Super League. They did something very similar to Warrington early on in the season. First half there was magnificent. Warrington couldn't get near him, and then second half, Warrington got their own way and come back into it. So just similar to that. But you're right, it's about learning how to manage games, and some of the errors were schoolboy really. Giving 4 points away here, another try there. So it's but the main thing is they have got a massive threat, and if they get it right, they can be the best team in Super League on the day. On the flip side, I thought it was great for James Roby on his very, very special day that they got the victory, and they did the right thing by Robes. They give him a nice trophy and guard of honour and whatnot, and it was great to see. He's been a fantastic servant for the club and rugby league in general.
Yeah, but
just on James Roby, as soon as you go into the St Helens training base at Cowley, there's a list of players who have made the leaderboard, and right at the bottom a guy called Tom Fawkes, 1895. He sits right at the bottom, and then all the way up now, James Roby overtakes Kel Coslett. But you just think 150 years that club has been producing players. And for a man in the modern day era, this isn't even counting his 43 international games that he's done as well. It's a remarkable achievement, and he's continuing to add to those in still the rest of this season. The crowd were chanting one more year. I know Rob's personally. I think he's almost made his mind up. But what a terrific player.
Yeah, and brilliant to see the way that was acknowledged and celebrated by St Helens at the weekend. Really interesting the way that the Betfred Super League's lining up this year. We go into every week with no idea, do we, what the results are going to be. It's so competitive. Into Challenge Cup action, of course, next weekend, which we'll touch on shortly as we get back on the road to Wembley. The Women's Nines competition kicked off at the weekend as well. Championship and League One as strong as they ever have been. Keep your eyes peeled, of course, because we're bringing you 20 live games here on the Sportsman Rugby League. And hopefully we'll be making some announcements about our next ones very shortly.
You're watching the Sportsman Rugby League,
the home of Rugby League online.
Subscribe for exclusive live games from the Betfred Women's Super League and Challenge Cup.
Yeah, back on the road to Wembley then this week, the 6th round of the Challenge Cup. The Super League teams are in the mix, and Kyle, how special is this time of year? Because we start thinking about Wembley properly.
Yeah.
And that arch is looming into sight, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Particularly for the Championship clubs, they get a shot at some Super League clubs as well, and they get to make a little dent in a couple of people's egos, and their dream's still alive, isn't it? Right from the guys in the early round, you want to progress and see how far you can get in the Challenge Cup and get to walk out on such a famous field at Wembley and have an opportunity of winning silverware. For the Super League clubs as well, they get excited. It's a fresh competition for them and an opportunity to etch their name in history as well.
Moz, we know how much you loved Challenge Cup at Wembley. There is just something, isn't it, when you've grown up with rugby league and you've watched those games on the BBC over the years and all of those classic finals at Wembley. There's just something about this competition that's got a spark to it.
It's magic, and before the grand final was involved in rugby league on these shows, the Challenge Cup was the be-all and end-all, so it was massive. It got massive coverage, always on the BBC, always huge crowds, and that was the game to play in. Obviously, the grand final hours probably overtook the Challenge Cup in terms of importance, and quite rightly so, but there's still something magic about the Challenge Cup, and to play in it and get an opportunity to, as Carl said, knock off the big boys or dare say get all the way to Wembley. It's just incredible, and I can't wait for this weekend.
Well, it starts Friday night on Viaplay. Halifax Panthers against St Helens. We're just talking about the opportunity for Championship teams to have a crack at Super League, Kyle, and this is prime example of that. Regardless of what the odds will say and the experts will say, it'll just be fun to see Halifax having a crack at a Super League team.
100%. You've only got to go back to, I think it was 2019, Lewis, where we played Halifax at St Helens at Bolton Stadium in the semi-final, and it poured down that day. And I think it was something like 4-0 for 60 minutes. They absolutely tore into us, and it was something a bit different. When you try and put your players on and your shape on that you normally run against Super League players, the detail, the level of detail that Super League sides defend and attack at, the players design, they work. But at Championship, you've got guys who are just flying out from everywhere, and it becomes a little bit difficult to break them down. And in particular that day when it was wet as well, obviously, look, we were up for it. It was the semi-final, of course, but I don't think we really appreciated how much these guys would come after you. For the reasons I said earlier, a chance to knock them off. It's a free hit for them, Moz, isn't it? They've got nothing to lose. So, and it's at home. The share, I've no doubt, will be bouncing. Halifax, loads of people from the town will be there. The TV cameras are there in Viaplay. So St Helens have got a challenge. Of course, I think St Helens will have enough to get past them, but I don't think Halifax Panthers will just lie down and let them walk all over them for sure.
And then also Friday, Wakefield Trinity versus the Lee Leopards. Well, we've not really mentioned Lee on this show. I'm going to talk about them in a second, but we just talked about Wakefield earlier. Is this perhaps the perfect opportunity to take the pressure off? It's a free hit in some respects. One win can often breed two, breed three. Winning becomes a habit. Is this the chance to start that process?
Well, before the season started, Wakefield would have looked at Lee and thought, we'll hopefully get a bit of success against these guys. They've just come up from the Championship, but Lee have switched from just surviving in Super League to being potential playoff contenders. So Lee are going very, very well. But you've just mentioned that because it's a bit of a break from Super League, it's Challenge Cup now. You're right. You do prepare for these games differently. So Wakefield could have a relaxed week, thinking there's no pressure on us now. There's no 2 points at stake. Let's just go out there and try and get the win. There's no second chances. So they could potentially get the win, but. I'll go back to Lee. The way Lee are playing at the moment, I just can't see them slipping up, to be fair.
Yeah, Carl, Moz mentioned that mentality switch from kind of survival mode to Lee to real competitive mode, which is absolutely what they've been. They'll be looking at the Challenge Cup going, well, why not? And rightfully so, won't they?
Oh, 100%. You look at the squad that I think Lee have learned some incredible lessons from last time they were in Super League. When I don't even think, did they win a game or they might have won one or two or something like that. They weren't ready for that. They didn't recruit around that. Where this time round, they've got all the ducks in a row. And they've recruited so well that as soon as they come up, I was confident. I even remember right at the start of the year when we did this show, I didn't have them in a relegation scrap at all. I thought they'd maybe finish around 8th or 9th, and they have got a small squad, so they could possibly go through a bit of bad run of injuries, as can any squad. But for them, to answer your question, I think they are reassessing the goals. I think the goals that they would have set as a team and as a club at the start of the year, I think they're able to rip that in half now and perhaps You know, go after that top 6, go after getting into a final of a Challenge Cup. Why not? You know, they have turned some big teams over already, and they've certainly got some exciting players in there as well. Josh Charnley's he's killing it at the moment. He's in the form of his life. Edwin Apape, you know, Tom Amor, I love what he does. You know, Asiata as well, and I just think they've got a real good mix of everything good at the moment. And Adrian Lamb, obviously, is a coach that they all love playing under.
And then moving on to Hull KR versus Batley. I'm always impressed when I see Batley playing in Championship or the Cup. You'd feel that, Kyle, if this game was at Mount Pleasant, Batley would be feeling a lot more confident about the chance of causing an upset.
I played at Mount Pleasant about 10 days ago, and last time I played there was 2008, and I forgot how big that hill actually is. You know, it is an almighty hill. And Batley, they are instrumental at knowing how to play that as well. You know, they've got Josh Woods, who just has a good kicking game on them. I do agree with you. If it was at Mount Pleasant, you'd probably, you know, you'd still favour Hull KR in the form that they're in. But, you know, look, I think it's going to be a difficult task for them, especially going to Hull KR. It's one of the most difficult places to go within there with Wakefield and Catalan away. It's pretty tough.
And then live on the BBC Saturday afternoon, this just stinks of being vintage Challenge Cup. It's a rematch of that game from Friday night. It's Leeds versus Wigan, and it's going to be an absolute cracker.
These are the moments when men are made or broken. The Challenge Cup.
Gets it away, it's going to be a try! Mile and over! Brilliant from Leeds! French it is about the try, and then Toby King with the try, and French is away, kicks through, Waddle gets it, ball inside, Harry Newman using the big dive!
Now they've got numbers, and they've got a try. Ash Huntley down this left-hand side.
And Harry Smith with another kick, Liam Marcel into the corner! Wow!
Yeah, I can't wait for this one. It was always, as soon as that draw came out, it was always the headline tie, the one we were all looking forward to. But Moz, given what happened just a few days ago at the DW, this has got even more kind of narrative and juice and spice to it, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Two powerhouses of the modern game. They've met in a number of finals, and you're right, all the drama that went on last week, it just adds to this fixture at the weekend. So I can't wait for this one. And yeah, the fact that it's at Headingley, you know, they'll be, the Leeds rounds will be confidence at home, but you know, Wigan will want to put what went wrong last week and get themselves in the bag for the next round. But yeah, I can't really pick this one, but very, very excited.
Kyle, I'm sure we'll hear a lot of it's just another game, that they're taking it week by week, all of this kind of cliche stuff that we do here. But just take us inside what might be going on in those dressing rooms at the moment. Do you talk about revenge? Do you talk about getting even when you've had a result like that and you've got them coming up against Sea?
Well, yeah, there's a number of things really. I've no doubt that in the review of Wigan, you know, the finger will be pointed and you'll be questioned and challenged whether your efforts were up to the standards of what that club demands. And first of all, that hurts you, you know, when your coach is climbing into you and you've got your peers in and around you. And I don't think it would have been directed at a particular person. It would have been, there was plenty of people who were off, in particular that second half. And, you know, you think about the commanding lead that Wigan were in, you know, it's disappointing that they thought that they could just, you know, course through that. Leeds are a quality side. You have to respect your opposition by giving them your best, really. So I think, you know, I don't think Matty Pete's got a lot to say to these men this week, Moz. I really don't. I think he can just almost say, look, you know, this is what happened last time. Over to you guys. You know, show me that pulling on a cherry and white shirt actually means something to you. Go to their backyard and take it off them, because, you know, Leeds at home now under Rowan Smith, playing with a bit of confidence, got a huge win against them. They won't be fearing Wigan coming for sure. So it does have all the spice and all the ingredients for a perfect game.
Wigan current holders as well. Most of them desperate to hold on to it, weren't they?
Yeah, definitely. And you know, Leeds won it not so long ago as well. I remember the very first Challenge Cup, I just signed for Leeds. I was only 16 and I got invited to go down to Wembley. So I had my Leeds kit on and I got there and they played Wigan. It was when Martin Afire scored that wonderful 100-metre try. And but they were a fantastic. They were the Cup Kings at the time. Wigan. I think they was on a run of seven straight wins. They have met in the grand final once or twice, but these two are the two most successful teams, along with St Helens of the modern era. So any time they play each other in any competition, it's going to be humdinger, and this weekend's going to be no different, I'm sure.
I'm going to put you on the spot for this one by one, gents. Moz, prediction?
I think Leeds. Just because they've got home advantage. They'll be very confident from last week, and I just think they're just going to ride the wave.
Carl?
No, I think Wigan bounce back. I think the inconsistency of Leeds tells me that while they'll surely have a spirited effort and make it a contest, I think Wigan win.
Well, moving on to the next game on Saturday afternoon, south of France, a rematch to 2018 final, Catalan Dragons versus Warrington Wolves. Warrington went over to Catalan a few weeks ago. Carl got the win.
Yep.
They'll be obviously looking to do the same again, but this, on paper, has the matchings of a really good cup side, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah, without doubt. You know, you've got the form team of the competition. Warrington, yeah, I think they are the real deal. I think they'll have learnt lessons through that mini period of Catalan, Saints, and then Wigan. You know, obviously they won only one of that, which was that fixture you just mentioned there, Catalan. They played the big three, come away with one win. I think they learned lessons. I think, you know, the sign of a good team shows that they're able to bounce back off the back of any adversity, and I just think that do you know what? I really can't call it though. You know, Catalan are playing well at the moment. It's at home. Again, you talk about lessons. Well, Catalan have learnt the lesson from last time our Warrington played over there. I honestly can't split this one. I'm going to go for a Catalan win though.
Moz, prediction?
Yeah, I think Catalans, they are slowly getting the bodies back. There was, busted for a while with a number of injured players missing. I think, you know, the fact that they got them boys back, and the fact Warrington went over there a few weeks ago and got the win, I think they will have learnt lessons. So I think close one, tight one, but Catalans will just sneak it.
Saturday night, live on Viaplay, 7:30 kickoff. This is an interesting game, Moz. It's been a bit of a grudge match in the last couple of years for obvious reasons. Salford Red Devils against Huddersfield Giants. Salford, brilliant for 40. Very ordinary for 40, to put it politely, on Saturday. Huddersfield can't quite get themselves going. What happens? Well,
I was at the Super League fixture of this tie. Huddersfield went over and they give the Red Devils a bit of a hiding that day actually. So they'll be confident knowing they can go there and get the win. But I just think Salford, the way they're going about the business, I just think they'll have learnt a few lessons from the loss against Saints at the weekend. And I just think Salford will. I think they'll get the job done on Saturday, but it'll be close. As you say, there is a bit of a grudge match with all the to-ins and throw-ins of the coaches and the players, etc. And I just think Salford will sneak it.
2 games on Sunday. We've got an all-championship tie, York versus London. Carl, you obviously watch a lot of Championship. You're playing quite a bit of the Championship as well. This will be a really good game in terms of two sides that are quite level. There wasn't much between them at all when they met just last week, or week before, sorry. And a great opportunity to go on and progress one step further.
Yeah, look, let me tell you, Lewis, to pick results in the Championship is almost impossible. You know, you saw the other week there, Swinton turn over Toulouse, and so many of those results that just don't follow the normal trend appear. But these two, there's not a lot between them. London started off slow, picked up a couple of wins along the way. York have been pretty much a bit like the Leeds Rhinos. You know, they've been getting good wins against good teams, losing against ones that you're perhaps thinking that they should win. So it's very, very difficult to call this one. I do think that, with it being at York, I think York get this win. But I certainly think it'll be a tight contest as well. Challenge Cup as well. There's no second bite of the cherry. Once you're out. That's it. And for clubs in the Championship, a chance and an opportunity to progress to the next round and get a Super League side and one with a lot of support as well coming over can certainly help the bank balances of those clubs. So it's huge for them to get through.
And then rounding off the weekend, Castleford versus Hull FC. Moz, we spoke previously about maybe it being a little bit of a reset button for Wakefield. Probably apply that to Cass as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think they can probably say we're not going to, more than likely, not going to make the playoffs in Super League, but with the Challenge Cup, it's a different competition. Let's put all our eggs in this basket. So they'll be going out there for looking for the win. But Hull, they're one of the form teams of Super League, so Hull will start favourites, but it's just a case of how much Cass won it. They've got home advantage, Castleford, haven't they? So that's tough place to go. But I just think confidence is low in the Cass camp, and it's sky high at Hull. So I think Hull will get the win.
Yeah, just last week, the performance against Catland Dragons, 30 points inside the first half, tells you where that team is at home as well. Yes, they come back out and they got had a bit more of a dig about the second half, but they do need to start sort of pulling the weight a little bit more, I think.
Well, a massive weekend as we step further down the road to Wembley. That arch looming large on the horizon. But before we get that far, in a couple of weeks, we're going to be driving past the Angel of the North as we head up to Newcastle for Magic Weekend.
Make this Magic Weekend one to remember.
Oh my word, what a try!
6 Betfred Super League games at St James's Park on the 3rd and 4th of June. Out of your seat action, last minute drama and a party atmosphere. Magic Weekend has it all.
The local boy will enjoy that!
Tickets start at just £25 for adults and £12.50 for juniors.
Yeah, it'd be brilliant to get back up to Newcastle for Magic Weekend. Always a cracking couple of days in the Betfred Super League, but of course Challenge Cup action in between now and then this weekend as we get ever closer to those quarterfinals, semi-finals, and of course Wembley. Gents, absolute pleasure to be with you for the last half an hour or so. Great to talk rugby league as ever. Just going to put you on the spot. I think I probably know the answer for both of you, but if you have to pick one of these games out as the games of the weekend, Moz?
Leeds, Wigan.
Catalan, Warrington.
There we go. Well, thank you for joining us again. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week, of course, with the last tackle right here on the Sportsman Rugby League.